Welcome to the Bridge Building Lab. We're going to explore how do trusses affect the amount of weight that a bridge can support. I found this article that was published in 2016, and it states that they spent $17.7 million on a makeover for the Crescent City connection. Now this was back in 2017, but they shut down the HOV lanes and the shoulders, and it's even quoted here that they were just doing some improvements aesthetically. Once everything's done, you won't notice the rust spots. Now, all of this article is saying is that they spent $17.7 million just to paint the trusses on top of the Crescent City connection. Not the bridge itself, but all of the iron around the bridge is what needed a new paint job. And they spent $17.7 million to do that. So just how much is $17.7 million? Let's do a little bit of math and find out. First, let's pretend that 1 second is equal to $1. Now, let's count.
1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3.
Every second is equal to $1. So now, let's keep going with this idea.
7 Mississippi, 8 Mississippi.
And now 60 seconds we know is equal to 1 minute, 60 minutes is equal to 1 hour, and 24 hours is equal to 1 day. So, if we keep counting, to get to 1,000 seconds, it will take how many minutes?
19 Mississippi, 20 Mississippi.
It'll take 17 minutes just to count 1,000 seconds.
24 Mississippi,
Now, let's do the same thing with 1,000,000 seconds. How many minutes do you think it'll take to get to 1,000,000 seconds?
30 Mississippi, 31 Mississippi, 32.
It'll take 16,667 minutes, which is about 12 days, just to get to 1,000,000 seconds. Now, what about 17.7 million seconds? How many minutes do you think it would take? Feel free to pause and do the math.
4 Mississippi, 45 Mississippi, 46 Mississippi, 47 Mississippi, 48 Mississippi.
It'll take 295,000 minutes just to get to 17.7 million seconds. That's 205 days. Now, if you think this is counting every second, that means you're not eating, you're not sleeping, you're not going to the bathroom. This is just counting 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi for 205 days straight. That's a really big number. $17.7 million. That's huge. So, it got me thinking. What if the city council questioned that $17.7 million budget? I mean, a bridge is a bridge, am I right? If we just cut off those fancy trusses off the Crescent City connection, we won't have to pay $17.7 million just to paint them anymore. Am I right? So here's what you're going to need to test this out. You're going to need 5 long straws. The bendy ones are okay, but you're going to need to cut off the bendy part because we need a nice straight straw that does not bend. You can use the part that you cut off as a spacer, but you only need about like 2 inches of the straw for the spacer. You're gonna need 2 cups, doesn't matter what kind, as long as they're the same size. You're gonna need a cardboard platform with a hole cut in the middle. That hole should be as long or a little bit shorter than your straws that you're cutting. And you're gonna need a 1 yard of string, 1 yard of tape, and a weight tester kit, which is just another cup with a string and taped to it with a paper clip so that you can hang it from the bridge. And you're gonna need a weight like pennies, rice, or beans. So let me walk you through the steps. Step 1 is you're gonna tape 2 of your long straws together at the end and make sure that they're even and not twisted together. You're gonna do that with the other 2 straws so that you have 2 of them. And notice step 2 here, you're gonna put the spacer in between the straws. So notice at the top, you have it taped at the top with the 2 straws, and at the bottom, you have that little spacer, that little 2 inches of a straw cut off and put down at the bottom so that you can see the straw spacer on top. Do that for both sets, so you're gonna need 2 sets of those. Then you're gonna tape your cups down onto the cardboard, onto the platform. Be careful not to use too much tape, but that's okay if you do. But also, your cups should be spaced just far enough for a straw to fit on top of the 2 cups, however size you cut your straw, okay? Next, you're gonna need to put your new beams that you just made on your cup. You're gonna tape it too, and notice that you need to put the spacer above the cup lip, because you're going to need your straw to sit on top of that. So notice I've got 2 arrows pointing there. There's the bottom one is where the lip of the cup is, and the top one there is where the lip of the spacer is. You're going to repeat the same thing on the other side of the cup, and you're going to put 1 straw that goes between the 2. Now remember that your straw needs to cover over the entire gap of the hole, and the hole doesn't need to be that big, just enough for you to fit a string through that hole. So you don't have to make a big hole. It just needs to be able to fit a string through. Next, we're going to test it out. You're going to need something to hold up your bridge apparatus that you made. You can use 2 chairs back to back, or a clothes hamper, or even the 2 stacks of Coke boxes. You just need something kind of tall to support the weight of your bridge and to also give you enough room to measure things underneath it. So here you can see I'm adding the tester kit that we made with the cup and the string and the tape. You don't need the paper clip, but it makes it so much easier to be able to hook it on to the bridge. So I would try something that can hook to it. And this is kind of what you're wanting, where it's dangling through the hole and dangling down below the bridge. And here I'm adding rice, and I'm going to count the number of scoops it takes for me to fill this cup before eventually this bridge is going to fail. Now there's a number of things you can also use as weight. You could use pennies, you could use water. I just find that rice is pretty easy because you can count the number of scoops that you add, but you can also count how many pennies it holds. Now let's get to testing out those trusses and if they're really important. You're going to take a string and wrap it around the middle of the straw 2 times at least. Then you're going to run that string over the top of each of the straws. Notice how it's sitting right on top of the tape of the straw beams that we made. Then you're going to pull that string down underneath the cardboard and tape it down. It doesn't have to go underneath necessarily, it just has to be really tight and taped to the cardboard. And it should look something kind of like this, to where it looks like a suspension bridge now, where the string is going in the middle of the straw and it's going all the way over the edge, but notice it's not lifting the straw off of the spacer. Here's a good example. Okay, so we'll add our weight tester kit where it's dangling down, not touching the bottom, but still dangling, and then we'll start adding our rice. You'll probably notice that your cup is getting closer and closer and closer to the ground. And that's okay, because your straw is probably bending like crazy, which is also okay. Civil engineers that design bridges already have this in mind in their design, because a bridge needs to have a little bit of give to it. If it's too rigid, it could cause some serious damage.